Today, I'm going to talk about children and raising children and being a parent. By the end of this episode, I am going to offer you what I consider to be the best parenting advice I could give to anyone, but also the best advice that I can take myself when raising my own kids.
I'm Dr. Williams, and this is my podcast. I have 2 graduate degrees in psychology, am a licensed mental health counselor, and an expert in the area of spirituality. I am devoted to living my best life and am sharing it with all of you. I'm bringing my expertise, education, and life experiences to you through this podcast. Everyone deserves to enjoy life, and that is what I'm here to talk about. Depression, anxiety, grief, you name it, we all go through it at one time or another. I believe there's a better way to come at these things than mainstream mental health care offers, and I'm here to offer you my perspective and dig into discovering how you can feel good no matter what life throws at you. It is my intention to contribute goodness to this world, and the content herein is how I do that. But one disclaimer before we dive in. Should you decide to apply the information offered here, be prepared for improvements in your life. You may even live happily ever after, and you'll only have yourself to thank. This is Feel Good Now, the Dr. Williams podcast.
I just want to give a little bit of background. I did work with children for about 3 years in a mental health agency, and I was a child therapist. So I have some experience working with kids and trying to address some mental health issues. I had a lot of frustration in that job position. I really, really enjoyed working with the kids just because kids are just so pure and wonderful, and we have so much to learn from them. When I was working with kids, I think the major frustration that I experienced came not from the kids, but from my realization that the problems that were arising in the lives of these children really were not the children's fault at all. And a lot of the parents were bringing their kids to me, and they were dropping them off for an hour session once a week, and they wanted me to fix their kid. But I obviously could not do that because their child was not the problem. Children are so perfect. They are closer to non-physical than we are, and we really need to be looking at them as more of how we should be modeling our behavior rather than the other way around. But we have this tendency when we become parents or guardians that we have all this pressure and responsibility to be this role in their lives and to raise them up to be an upstanding citizen or to teach them how to be a good human. But really, they come into the world in all perfection, and we are the ones that lose that along the way as we come into our adulthood. If we were just to watch the children and learn from them and be more like them, we would be more on track with where we're supposed to be. So these parents were bringing their kids to me, and first of all, I had to do diagnosis, and that was terrible. I mean, here you are trying to label this kid based on behavioral issues that other people are witnessing in them, when really those behavioral issues were more representative of the home environment or the nature of the relationships that these children were involved in than it was of the child itself. And I really felt this gnawing feeling in that work that I really needed to be talking with the parents, not the kids. Because as much as I loved playing with the kids and forming bonds and relationships with them, that really wasn't solving the problem. Because I didn't need to be talking with this child. The child was just mirroring other issues in its life that it was being exposed to. And that is true for so much when we are talking about laws of attraction and things of a spiritual nature, because we know that we are vibrational beings living in a vibrational universe. And people have a hard time wrapping their head around negative things when they happen to kids. And they're like, well, wait a minute. Now here comes this pure little baby and child into our world. Why are these bad things happening to kids? And the truth is, it's not anything to do with the child's vibration, but it's because the child has been exposed to a negative vibration that's imposed on them by a grown-up or several grown-ups in their life. And that can be really hard to hear for a lot of people, because it means that you are essentially causing harm to these kids. And that's really the opposite of what most people want. Most people have a great deal of love and affection and caring for children, and they want nothing but the best for them. So admitting that responsibility is really a hard pill to swallow. And I wish I could make that a little easier, but that's just the way it is. And I am guilty of this too. Even recently, I noticed that I had been having a lot of thoughts about illness, like just a cold, but illness just the same. And we had been around some kids at the park that I noticed were coughing and sneezing, and I was letting my boys play with them and being aware of my thought patterns, because I understand how this all works. But even though I was trying to stay focused on health and well-being, when you pick up that stick, right, you pick up both ends. And even though you're focused on what you want, you really are also focused on the absence of what you want. So in this case, illness is the absence of wellness. And shortly after that, the kids did get a cold, and I had to admit my responsibility in that. The chances are, if my kids had been playing with those other kids and I wasn't around to witness it and have this awareness of the illness, they wouldn't have been sick. That vibration wouldn't have been there. In order for you to become sick, you have to be on the same vibrational plane as germs. And I kind of put it there. So, and I felt bad about it, but I'm a work in progress. We all are, right? Back to psychology and working with kids. After I did work with kids for 3 years, and it really weighed on me because I realized that I wasn't really making an impact because the problems didn't lie with the children. I decided I really needed to change things up and go work with adults, and that's what I did. And that was a better fit for me, but it still wasn't a perfect fit because I realized that the mental health treatment that is mainstream is lacking in a lot of ways when it comes to helping people in a real impactful way. So I understand better now that I have this spiritual base on how to really be able to help people, because you have to actually go to the source. It's all about the source. And if you can actually come at things from that point of knowing the person's source and speaking to it, and then you can really, really make an impact in helping people improve their lives. But that is not the topic of this episode. We're talking about kids today. And I want to say that when I was working with kids, I was not yet a mother. I was years and years away from being a mother. And when I finally did become a mother, it definitely changed me in wonderful ways. And it also brought an array of fears and worries and regrets and anxiety and guilt, a lot of guilt. And these are all things that come with responsibility. You bring this little person into the world, and then with it comes this great sense of responsibility for their life. And I think a lot of parents can relate with that. Guardians, anybody who's caring for a child, and you feel that responsibility to take care of them and promote wellness in their life to where they're happy and thriving. That's a lot to take on. And a lot of people aren't even doing that for themselves, let alone being able to promote that for somebody else. So that all plays in to this episode and the wonderful advice that I have for anybody who feels that kind of responsibility for a child. So let's talk about children from a spiritual perspective. Now, they are much closer to non-physical than we are as adults because they just came from there not very long ago. And they still have a strong connection with their source energy, whether they're able to verbalize that or not. And there's a lot of signs that you might see that speak to that. For instance, my older son recently opened up to me about his past life, and he remembers it. And he told me all about it and his experience. It was kind of hard to believe at first, but because I do have this knowledge, I think I was probably more open to it than some people. And so I asked some questions and I told him I believed him because I do. And I watched his eyes and I wanted to know, is his brain creating right now or is he remembering? And I believe him. I believe that he does remember his past life. He also has a lot of other intuitions and what people would refer to as psychic abilities that a lot of people would brush off as imagination that I am actually recognizing as his connection to non-physical energy because he is closer to that and I can recognize it and nurture it. And I think that that's going to give him a leg up in a lot of ways in his life because I am not going to tell him that that's not accurate or that he's not remembering his past life or not or whatever. I'm not going to smush that because I am here learning from him. And that's one of the major points that I want to make. Because they are closer to non-physical, we can learn so much more from children than they can learn from us. Because we are spiritual beings. Our core self is non-physical. So doesn't it make sense that we would have a greater understanding and knowledge learning from those who are closer to non-physical? But here they are. These children are growing up, but they are under our thumb, right? As their guardians, we are their authority figure and we are telling them how they need to be and what's right and what's wrong and the difference between good and evil and ultimately what they have to do to earn love from us. And that might be hard to hear. But the truth is, we are teaching our children conditional love. Anytime that we reprimand them or tell them that they need to be different than how they are, we are implementing a condition in order for them to receive our approval. And I don't think that people realize and mean to do that, but that is happening. Even though we say we love our children unconditionally, and really we do, right? When you are tapped in to your inner being and you are in alignment and you are feeling that love for those kids, absolutely, 100% unconditional. The problem is that your behavior and parenting and guidance is not backing that up in a lot of ways. I'm raising my hand over here. 100% guilty. And I'm working on this and I am aware that I do this. These aren't my finest moments, but I am trying to be aware of it and find my own alignment so that I can be a better mom.
I have to interject here because I'm so excited to tell you guys about my branding photo shoot. Have you seen my photos? I love them. They're so good. I'm obsessed with them. And I have to be honest with you, when I was in the photo shoot and we were taking the pictures, it did not feel like I was going to love them. And I think part of that's just me I've never really felt super comfortable on that end of the camera, having pictures taken of me. It's not usually flattering in my opinion. So when I got my preview back from my photo shoot, literally cried tears because I was so happily overjoyed with the results. And I automatically reached out to my photographer and I was like, are you magic? Because I couldn't believe that I loved them so much. So I want to share with you and give you guys an opportunity to take advantage of a really special offer just for my listeners so that you can book a shoot with my photographer. I love my photographer. I literally love her. She's my cousin, and many of you have heard of her, LLC Photography. I'm really fortunate to have such a talented photographer in my family, and she offered to do the shoot because she really wants to support me and the podcast. She's amazing, and I'm not biased. Like, if you've seen her photos, you already know. She is so good. And her portfolio is extensive. So if you're in the market for a photo shoot, chances are she can meet your needs. But just to name a few, she does family candids, weddings, even destination weddings, maternity, boudoir. Oh my gosh, boudoir. Her boudoir is so spicy. You guys have got to check it out on Instagram. And maternity boudoir for all you mamas to feel sexy during that special time of your life. And she even travels to where you want her to shoot. So if there's some place in the country that you really want to do a shoot, you just talk to her about that. And if there's multiple shoots for her to do in that city, she doesn't charge travel costs. So share with your friends and get some bookings in your area. So here's how you can reach her. Go to www.allisoncolombe.com. ALLISONCOULOMBE. You guys also have got to check her out on Instagram at LLC Colombe. You're going to love it. You're going to get so excited every time you see that she's posted. Her photos are really that good. Okay, so here's the exclusive offer. This is really like the best part of collaborating with other creatives because other people that are doing creative work really want to support people who are creators. And Allison is offering an exclusive offer for you guys, my listeners. So if you mention the Dr. Williams podcast, you are going to get 20% off your scheduled session. And that goes for any session, any kind of photo shoot you want to do. That's like unheard of, even the boudoir. And those are well sought after shoots that she does. So that's a gift for all of you. So reach out to her, you guys, and set up a shoot. You're going to love it. I know even if you don't think that you're going to like it, you got to do it. You're going to like it. And then I want you to let me know when you do it. And I definitely want to see your pictures. Okay, guys, now back to the episode.
Just by watching children, we can learn so much about living a physical life from a non-physical alignment. I mean, kids are all about playing and fun and laughter and happiness, right? That's their baseline. And that's how all of us are supposed to be. And then we all get weighed down with these responsibilities and the heaviness of life. And when we focus more on that heaviness, we get more heaviness. And lightening up can be difficult for a lot of us. But children, they are better aligned most of the time. And you know this just by witnessing their emotional regulation. They are very in tune with their emotions, aren't they? They can go from happy to sad, back to happy in the blink of an eye. And that's because they understand better the feeling of alignment, that feeling of happiness and love and bliss. Because when their emotions sway from that even a little bit, it feels like the end of the world for them. And there's tears and there's tantrums and they get very, very upset. Now, that really tells us that they are experiencing that contrast, the contrast of alignment, through their negative emotion. And that's what we all have, but we kind of become numb to it as we come into adulthood, and we don't really focus on our emotions as much. But children are completely emotional, and then they start to lose it as they grow up because of what we are nurturing. And I think that if we are to continue to nurture that emotional awareness, we can raise children into true happiness and alignment in life. And this whole world will be unrecognizable to us when those children grow up in the best way. So I noticed with my youngest son, he just turned 4 recently. So when he was still 3, I noticed that I was getting very frustrated with the kids one day, and I was all up in arms and angry and snappy, and he just continued to sit in his car seat, and he was singing a little song to himself and looking out the window. And I was thinking, how does he do that? Here I am verbalizing my frustration to them, and he just maintains his happiness. And the reason is because he is more in alignment than I am. And I realized it in the moment. And you know what it did? It brought me back into alignment. And it allowed me to go, wow, that's how I should be. And I told him that. I said, I hope that no matter what, you are able to continue being happy, no matter how anyone around you feels. I told him I was proud of him and that I appreciated it and that I was going to try to do that better. So in doing that, I validated his emotional regulation. I validated his alignment. I validated that my negative emotion was my problem, not his. And it brought us into a moment of co-creating together. I learned from him. I empowered him. It was a fine parenting moment. And I am grateful to him for that, for showing me that. When we demand obedience from our children or teach them to be focused on our emotions and our wellness and our happiness, we're sending the wrong message. It's not their job to maintain my happiness. So if I want them to clean up a mess, because ultimately I don't want to have to do it, and then I punish them or I yell at them when they don't do what I want, they make this connection between their behavior and my emotion. And ultimately what kids are learning at that point is I have to do X, Y, and Z in order for my mom or dad or whoever it might be to be happy with me. In another way of saying that is I have to behave in this way in order to receive love from this person. And that is the wrong message. That I don't want my kids to feel that way. I want my kids to know that I love them no matter what. There's nothing they could possibly do to make me not love them. And the way that I'm feeling about the conditions that we are living is about me. It's not about them. Because really, I don't want to clean up the mess either, right? I'm feeling the same way they are. They don't want to clean it up, neither do I. So really, we're in the same situation, and I understand how they feel. They're just better at going, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do it. They're better at maintaining their alignment and feeling good more of the time. And then we come in and we pressure them into doing what we want them to do, which ultimately brings them down instead of lifting them up. The boys and I, we go to the library regularly and just check out random books. Our library kind of sets them up on their bookshelves and kind of sets them out so you can see the cover of the book and get an idea of what it's about. And we just go through and we just grab and fill up our library bag and then check them out. And we spend the next week or week and a half reading a book a night from the library. When they run out, we go back and we do it all over again. Well, one of the books we checked out was about I love you even when you ... And the whole book, Every page was just a different behavior. And the parent saying, I love you even when you do this, this, and this. And they all were negative behaviors. And I sensed myself feeling a little bit of opposition. I was a little uncomfortable when I was reading it because I started to realize that what the book was saying was going against what I've been teaching, because it was saying things like, I love you even when you don't listen. I love you even when you spill your food. I love you even when you, hit the cat. Whatever it was all these things that we normally reprimand in a child. And I was uncomfortable with it because I thought, oh my gosh, am I sending the wrong message? Like, am I telling them it's okay to do these things? Because all this while I've been telling them that these things were not okay. And my older son, after we got done with the book, he was like, you love me even if I do those things? And I said, well, yes. And he was like, so I can do bad things? And I was like, nothing could make me not love you. So the book was really more for me. It was a lesson for me. And it made me realize that I've been sending this message to my kids that I don't love them when they're behaving in a way that goes against what I want them to do. So it really was a very powerful experience for me and for them, because I realized in this moment that I've been doing that and I needed to change that. And I really need to focus on expressing to them that I love them no matter what. And even after that, a couple days later, the kids were fighting, and I have been trying to stay out of it more and just have them figure it out. And I told them, I said, you guys, I love you both, even when you're fighting with each other. I know you'll figure it out. In doing that, it changed the whole tone of the experience. And it was almost like they didn't know what to do with themselves, because I wasn't yelling and I wasn't frustrated and I wasn't punishing them. And they knew in that moment that even though all that stuff was happening, they still had love for me. It was really great. I've been talking with my older son more about the laws of attraction, and they really seem to resonate with him. I think he understands probably more than I realize, and that's probably because he is closer to non-physical, so these things are resonating with him. He's starting to teach me better. He is really stepping into this role of mirroring for me. We were having a day where it was a weekend day, and we had gotten up and everything was good. We all were in good spirits, and then we started to stress. And I say we. When I say we, I mean I started to stress out because we were trying to get out the door and trying to get somewhere. And that means, herding cats, trying to get everybody dressed and brushed teeth and fed and cleaned up and everything that we do before we leave the house. And Austin, my older son, was aware of a dip in my emotions. He knew that things were going well and I was in good spirits and we were having fun and we were playing together as we run around and tried to get things ready. And then once I started to feel more stressed, my face changed. I started to grimace and my energy changed, and he was sensitive enough to feel it. And what he said to me was, now don't start thinking that it's going to be a bad day. And it took me back. When he said it, I went, whoa, yeah. And I literally said to him, you're absolutely right. Thank you. Because he reminded me that I was thinking about all the negative stuff that was happening now. And eventually that could have turned into an entirely bad day as that gained momentum. And I started to roll down that hill of negative emotion. And him saying that to me brought me out of it. And it brought me back into a place where I could get into an alignment with my inner being and start focusing on the good things, thinking good thoughts and feeling good. It was very powerful, and I think that children probably offer us these things But if we aren't open to it, we don't realize that it is a moment of them teaching us. My older son he's very resilient, and I noticed this at a young age. My husband and I, we're getting better. We have, both of us have a low tolerance for stress and frustration. And I have to say that we both have come a long way. But I noticed with my older son that even when my husband or I would be frustrated and take it out on the kids and lose our cool, my older son would just take it. He would just take it and continue on. Like, it didn't make him cry or get real upset or anything. He just kind of rolled with it. And I realized that that's his resilience. And I could learn a lot from that. Despite somebody yelling at me or getting upset and directing it at me, I don't have to take that on. That's not up to me. That's their issue. Their negative emotion is their responsibility. It's not mine. And he does that very well. And I recognize that, and I aim to be more like him. So here it is. The best parenting advice that I could give and take is to stop parenting with words and start being that which we want to model for our kids. Because words don't teach. Life experience teaches. What I am trying to do, and what I would suggest to anybody who is raising children, is to work on your alignment. Be aware of your alignment with your inner being. Be aware of your emotional scale and be open about it with your kids. So when you do get upset, when you notice you're having some negative emotions, communicate that. And just tell them and say, hey, I'm experiencing some negative emotions right now, and I have to go take care of that. That is the most important thing that I can do for all of us right now. And then you do that. You go and you do whatever you need to do to find your alignment again before you come back into their presence. That could be whatever it is that works for you, whether you meditate for 1 or 2 minutes or 5 or 10 or whatever is appropriate given your situation, or you have something that you love the smell of and you can just go and automatically take yourself into that better feeling place. Anything you can do to raise up your feeling so that you can get back into alignment with your inner being, with your true self, go and do that right now. Now, when you are expressing this to your kids, I think terminology can be important based on how old they are. I've been talking to my older son about his inner being and my inner being and true self. I use true self a lot also. But with my younger one, inner being, I think that could be a little bit confusing to him. It's kind of funny. When our dog died a little over a year ago, I was talking to my younger son about it, and I told him, well, Kaikai's not here with us anymore in the physical, but he's always in our hearts. And he took that in a very literal way. And even now, when he is feeling heartache, when he feels negative emotion, he expresses that by saying, Kaikai is in my heart scratching me, because he thinks that our dog is literally living in his heart and scratching at it right now. And that's why he feels that pain and that negative emotion. So an inner being living within you might conjure up some interesting images for your kids. So, use your best judgment as far as your terminology goes. So what this does, when you make your emotions and your alignment the number one priority in your life, you are modeling that behavior to your children. That is the most powerful thing you could ever teach them. And you are doing it by example, because like I said, words do not teach. You are showing them that this is how you take care of yourself. And this is how you maintain your happiness. And there's nothing else more important that you could ever impart on them. In doing this, your children also learn that your negative emotions are not their fault. You are accepting the responsibility for your feelings. And you're saying, hey, I'm experiencing these negative emotions and I'm going to address it. This will support that unconditional love that you are trying to express to them, because you're not making their behavior the reason for your emotions. In doing this, they learn that they are not responsible for anybody's emotions but their own. And that is powerful. And that could change the world. To be the best parent or guardian that you can be, all you have to do is be happy. When you're not, go get happy. Tend to your emotions. Tend to your alignment. Model that for your kids, and they will grow up to do the very same thing.
That concludes this episode, but if you don't want to wait for the next episode to come out, I have more for you at drwilliamspodcast.com. You can learn more about me and my journey to podcasting, find all the ways to connect with me on social media, and there's a button to subscribe so you're the first to know what's new and upcoming. You also can shoot me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com. You are so special to me, and your support does not go unnoticed. I want to support you too. This podcast is my outlet for growth, because when you teach something, you hold yourself accountable and apply the information in life. But the inspiration for these episodes comes in a variety of ways, and one of those is through you. I want you to feel like this is your show too. So send me a message and let me know which episode is your favorite and why. And tell me if there's a topic you'd want to hear me talk about. Your feedback applies to so many people, and your suggestion could change someone's life for the better. The best way to do this is by subscribing to the show and leaving a review through your favorite podcast platform. I really listen to you guys, and this dialogue feeds my soul. You say that you're a fan of me, but truth be told, I am a fan of yours. Everything is working out for each of us, and we're all in this together.